Hello and welcome back to the channel, folks. HeirofCarthage here, coming to you with a multiplayer replay from Total War Warhammer 3. I was able to play with Indie Pride, who runs the amazing Milk and Cookies Total War channel. I would imagine that you have seen it before. If you haven't, then you're probably living under a rock, because there's probably more people watching it by a long shot than here. But if you haven't, you should go check it out. He makes amazing content, really spends a lot of time making beautiful videos, lots of good cinematic shots, and really good commentary on all things Total War. You should definitely, like I said, go check it out. So we decided to play this multiplayer battle. I'm going to slow it down, and I figured this would be a fun day to show this because it's also Mother Ostankya Day. So how about some Mother Ostankya multiplayer? And I got the privilege of playing her. Indy is going to bring in the dwarves here. So I guess that Mother Ostankya's wrath is going to be poured out on the dwarves. And quite frankly, we fought this battle because Indy was thinking, like, man, I feel like Mother Ostankya and Kislev is like already dangerous to the dwarves, I think, in many respects. And he's like, I think Mother Ostankya is going to make them more dangerous. So I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. Let's see what it's like. So as far as the army I built, I went kind of Mother Ostankya themed, but also well prepared to face dwarves. So I have a couple of Zargard great weapons. They're going to be very good against armored dwarf infantry. I've got a couple of armored Cassars. Also good against dwarf infantry, both in range and in melee. However, these guys don't have shields, which makes their melee defense pretty low, and it makes them vulnerable to missile fire, so a couple of downsides. I did bring the Things in the Woods, which I think are a must if you're going to be playing against the dwarves. They are obscenely good against armored infantry. They don't carry much armor in return, though, so they will be vulnerable to some damage, especially from, like, slayers. So we've got a Patriarch here, and I brought him for Salyuk's Lullaby, which is going to give us the healing. And then, of course, Mother Ostankya over here. And as far as the abilities that I brought with her, Flock of Doom, and I meant to bring the Transformation of Kaidan, but ended up with the Curse of Honor Air. Not exactly what I had in mind. I also brought the Gulius here, which is the kind of healing mushroom thing. That's not huge heals, but it helps a little. So in any case, I've got a Horse Archer because that's how much money I had left, and so I invested it in a unit rather than upgrades. And then over here, I've got a fun little ambush. I've got some Akshina ambushers, two of those, along with some giant spiders. The giant spiders poison, armor piercing. And then on the other flank, I've got another spider and another Akshina ambusher. So I was hoping to do a little bit of Vanguard action here. Now, Indy has a pretty solid dwarf army here, I think. There's a couple of Slayers, one of which is the Dragonback Slayers, which, because of their slowing effect, they're excellent in that regard. So Slayers, I think, a good choice here because you're definitely going to be dealing with Things in the Wood, and you're going to be dealing probably with spiders. Slayers, not great against armor, but they will be really good against those Things in the Woods. Longbeards just provide some kind of solid iron line, you know. There's a couple of those. And then there's going to be some Bugman's Rangers. These are cool because they have the shields, they heal, they can contend with Kislev at range, and then I also like the Thunderers here. They can pour some damage in any armored units or big units. I think this is probably not a bad pick, and he's leaving some open lanes, and you'll notice that he's deployed in kind of a layered formation here where he can cross fields of fire and try and use the dwarves kind of the way that you have to be effective with them. The Lord is Thorek Ironbrow, and because he is a Master Runesmith, he does have the Master Rune of Slowness, and that is going to be really helpful at keeping an enemy slow while you try and take it out. And then he's got the Wrath and Ruin ability as well as this Rune of Doom. So cool to see Thorek on the battlefield, a fun character from a past DLC. And he's got another Runesmith too. I would imagine double slowing is probably the idea here, because the dwarves, even with these runes of slowing, they still just absolutely struggle with pinning anything down in order to get any work done in melee. So I've begun the harassment. He obviously knew that I was going to bring Akshina ambushers, and he just didn't know where they were at. Now he does, though they can fire while hidden. They were hidden. It's just that, you know, is your unit really hidden whenever they can see the arrows flying? You know, not so much. So I'm going to do a little bit of trading here. I strayed a little too close to those Rangers, but I was able to dodge that first volley and keep moving my army forward. I need to close the distance to the dwarves. I don't have artillery, neither does he, but he certainly has no reason to move. So I'm going to push the attack. I feel like I do have the capability to be offensive. And not just in smell, as Mother Ostankya, which is a given. You're definitely going to have an offensive odor. But yeah, I feel like if I can close the distance, get into the right melee, I don't need to sit back and try and cause a bunch of damage from range. I could. I don't know whether it would be successful, but I could go back and forth with him for a long time, trying to irritate him from range. But I'm not really intending to do that. I'm kind of just surveying his troops at the moment, And now you can see I'm beginning to move, now that I feel like I have a plan in mind. And that plan is to get into melee, and to try and get some damage done. The dwarves are going to have to cover a lot of ground, and again, it may look like his army is spread far and wide, but if your dwarf army is able to maintain like different lines of support fire, it can be quite deadly. Look at this though, the Akshina ambushers get hit by that Master Rune of Slowness. Really bad for me because I'm being pursued by Slayers, which for a dwarf is a pretty fast unit outside of a gyrocopter. And gyrocopters might be part of the answer that you want to have as dwarves, but they are definitely going to be at risk with armor-piercing Akshina ambushers potentially hiding all around. But look at this, very nice use of that Master Rune of Slowness there by Indie Pride, really making my Akshina ambushers feel it here. And I don't really have a unit that I want to collapse into melee with a Slayer other than one of my armored infantry units. So that's why I'm pulling this unit this way. I'm trying to save whatever I can from this Akshina ambusher. It won't have a lot of hit points left, but it will have a lot of entities left if I can continue to pull it to safety. So nice play there by Indy to open things up. I decided though to keep pressuring him, and this is good. It's drawing his attention back this direction with the spiders, though I can't really get in behind him. I'll get stuck back there and unable to escape. So at this point, I'm considering, trying to do a little bit of standoff here. I'm going to move these armored Cassars up, and I was hoping to maybe shoot some of his infantry up. He's going to turn his back though and move away, pull me in closer to his missile support, and that's understandable at this point. So I'm going to just push my whole army forward and get ready to move in. I have to watch out for those Thunderers, though. Thunderers can do a lot of damage real quick, and I also know that there's Runes of Slowness on the battlefield, so we'll be feeling that. You can see that Mother Ostankya, at least at short range, pretty good in terms of hurting some infantry. Look at this, just show you the kind of the punishing fire the dwarves can lay down without a shield here. I definitely had considered bringing just armored Cassars, and I kind of wish that I had, because these shields I think would have been good. But regardless, here it comes. My Things in the Woods going to get hit by that slowing next, which is really not good for me. So I decided to maybe pull them back for a second because they were about to come under fire from those Bugmans, and I'm going to go ahead and bring my infantry and the other unit in. And now what I have to do is I just have to attempt to overwhelm Indie Pride. So can I bring in enough units and make it impossible to feel like that he can reposition successfully to save his skirmishers? So you can see I'm going to get in here and I'm going to start trying to dump on skirmishers and test his ability to defend them. So I'm going to go for the Thunderers with my Akshina ambushers. They're getting pushed by infantry right now, which is not great for me, but I don't really have a whole lot that I can do about it at the moment. I'll have to pull those ambushers back away from that infantry here momentarily. But you can see I've had pretty good success getting that Zargard in, doing some damage, though they are taking damage in return. But I have definitely used these Akshina ambushers and Zargard to make a real problem on the other flank for Indy, and I've got my spiders back here too, so like I'm just kind of all over the place. And again, the attempt here is, can I make things miserable, essentially, right? So I'm going to pull those units away, try and not let him catch me. I can reactivate that armored Cassar to help fend off those Longbeards. And so far, so good. I'm getting a lot of skirmishers off the battlefield, and that's definitely going to be critical, though it hasn't been super easy all the time. You can see these Dragonback Slayers, whenever they get a hold of the giant spiders, they will hurt them quite badly. That's going to be a unit that needs to be dealt with via my own infantry, should any of it be left. I'm using my Patriarch to heal this Zargard with great weapons to try and cut through Thorek and these Longbeards. They are tough targets, but Zargard are definitely up to the job. I've got this other one finished, and we'll be pulling that back into combat here momentarily as well. So you can see that I've basically got the dwarves off balance. It's really difficult for them to feel like they have a good way to reposition, and this is what I need. I've got to keep this pressure on, and I have to make it near impossible for them to react in a way that will make them successful, right? So that's kind of my objective at the moment. So I'm going to be pulling in, reactivating units as best I can. Over here, my Akshina ambushers were caught by the dwarf warriors, but I was able to kind of just hold them, kill them with the other Akshina ambushers. These guys didn't do great for me out here, but they did get me that initial attention that allowed me to get into this melee. And this melee over here is going pretty good for me. And I've got a whole other Akshina ambusher back here that's in good health. So as long as I keep it that way, it should be alright. My spiders continue to harass. These Bugman Rangers, though, quite tough. Quite tough units. They heal. They're not going to be real easy to get through, but again, I can still just kind of continue to harass them. Mother Ostankya has 104 kills. She's owning. Like, her missile attacks are good in this case, and then her sled is pretty good. Now, she did just take a face full of lead there. Good thing for Mother Ostankya is that, like, getting a face full of hot lead will probably just make her look better and smell better. So I think that the Thunderers just did her a favor there, really. But I was able to get into them. Those Thunderers are going to pay a pretty price for that, but I have to flee away. Those Dragonback Slayers continue to come after me. But there's one thing that I can do to basically just deny them what they need, which is just keep moving. And this is what the Dwarves struggle with. The Master Rune of Slowness is certainly a help, but it can't be used constantly. That's just going to be where I'm able to gain an advantage here. The Zarguard doing a good job. They've racked up a lot of kills against the Dwarves, and, you know, I should be able to use that here. See, every time those Dragonback Slayers turn around, I just bring a unit in from another direction, so as they go for the spiders, I'm going to bring the units back from the other direction. And I'm just trying to make things untenable for them. You can see this is our guard out here, also getting good work done against Thorek. Their anti-infantry bonus with armor-piercing critical and helping to get rid of Thorek. So it's been a pretty close battle. I think Indy has done an admirable job here, because this is not an easy situation to fight. It's difficult because, again, the Dwarves have to get their timing right, their positioning right, the army pick right. If you do all those things well with Dwarves, they are very tough. But I do think I kind of agree with Indy's mindset, is that I do feel like in a lot of ways Kislev with Mother Ostankya is pretty well tuned to have the Dwarves' number in melee, and it does look like that I am headed towards a victory here. I don't think that there's a whole lot the Dwarves can do to get back in this unless I make some major blunders like this, like leaving my Patriarch out on an island against Thorek. So that was probably not the world's best decision. He's starting to even that out. I should have left those Zarguard with him, but we can of course ignore him momentarily, or my Patriarch gets routed. It's not the end of the world. Over here, his Slayers finally do have to contend with my guys in melee, which is good for me, because it'll wear them down, and I'm able to kind of pinch them in, and I'll finally be able to deal with them without those Slayers ripping apart my things in the woods and spiders, right? So I can finally get into them without just getting utterly shredded, because they would otherwise. And yeah, look at this. My Patriarch ends up buying the farm because of my decision. He's like, thanks, Heir. Appreciate you, you know? Take one for Kislev. Everybody pour out a cup of Bugmans for the Patriarch that I forced to his doom for no reason whatsoever. But over here, the Slayers are pretty much gone. We're going to get that Runesmith, and then this should start to turn the power bar against Thorek, who now routs as well. And it was a fun battle. Playing against Indy is always fun. He's a great player, picks fun armies and controls them well too, so definitely appreciate the opportunity to play with him. I have several more battles with him as well, and I will try and show you all some of those over the coming days, and I may get to play yet more. We'll see. Boy, my poor Patriarch there, 0 kills, but he did do a lot of damage against Thorek, so me throwing away his life wasn't totally for nothing, just mostly for nothing. We got a good performance out of the Zarguard in terms of number of kills. Decent value, not amazing for what they cost, but pretty good. Mother Ostankya here was really doing well. 1860 is not bad at all. Akshina Ambushers, again, pretty solid performance for this one. And not bad on the other ones too, because these units aren't crazy expensive. The Things in the Woods, this one is the one that got hit with the Rune of Slowness. Did not get a ton of value, but did get a decent bit of damage done. This one did pretty good value-wise and got a lot of damage done. So definitely some potent units when they get into the right targets. So yeah, overall, not bad. Even the Horse Archers there. I don't know how in the world these guys picked up 1,000 value in this battle. That's pretty incredible. The Horse Archer was like sometimes just threw in at the last second. I was like, this unit's not going to do me any good. And it ended up doing pretty good there. So let's take a look at Thorek. Thorek put up a good fight there. He was in some pretty tough melee and still picked up a decent value. The Slayers, obvious picks here. These were important picks. I like the pick of the Bugmans, a little more survivable. Tough unit for me to come up against there. But you can see this one started to get some pretty good value out of it. That one wasn't doing terrible either. But I was able to contain one of the Thunderers. The other one worked me over pretty good. That one did. And then as far as these Rangers, that's a pretty good value because the Ranger only costs 500. So, you know, it doesn't take much. If you get the right stuff with those units. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing out. Thanks to Indy Pride. I will see you all soon with some more action in Total War Warhammer 3.